Very happy New Year to everyone. And 2023 for us begins on a wonderful note today with the latest book by Mr. Partha Basu. He's joined us all the way from Amsterdam. And he just reminded me that today happens to be 13th January, 113th episode, and Friday the 13th. So a lot of coincidence, I must say. And really, the technology makes it possible to be able to join him all the way, thousands of miles away. This is the beauty of how it is today. Our 113th episode, as I just mentioned, has a very, very relevant book. This is Outskill, Future-Proofing Your Career in the Post-Pandemic World. It has been published by HarperCollins, already a bestseller. And a wonderful book, beautiful narration. I've gone through the book. They are still reading it though. And and I really suggest everyone to definitely go through it, write your reviews. And I'm sure Mr. Basu will get back to you on that. Before I go further, customarily, I must say, and I request everyone to please subscribe to our YouTube channel, Trends Literature Series, so that you can also watch this episode, which will be uploaded tomorrow, and also the other wonderful episodes that we've had before this. So Dia, you carry on forward, please.
To introduce sir, Partha Basu is a senior industry leader who has worked in 7 industries, international and Indian companies, and he has worked across full spectrum of business in multiple organizations, both as a CFO and a CEO in Fortune 500 organizations like Coca-Cola, Whirlpool, AkzoNobel, and Tata Group, as well as in new initiatives like IFB Bosch and Spicejet. Sir is a leadership mentor, has deep expertise in leading transformation, having done that for several organizations across the globe, a certified professional coach, and speak about transformation and the future of leadership. Sir has earlier authored 5 books, that is Lifescapes, The Long and Short of It in 2021, Mid-Career Crisis in 2015, Make It or Break It 2012, With or Without You 2010, and Why Not 2008. He has delivered lectures in India and abroad, and his articles have been published widely. At present, he is based out of Amsterdam, Netherlands. Welcome, sir, to our platform.
Thank you. Thank you so much for having me here. And I think your introduction is much beyond what I deserve, but thank you so much.
And I welcome you as well. It's such a pleasure to have you on our platform. Rather, I must say that we're really fortunate to have you with us on our 113th episode. I'll delve into the conversation straight away, and I'll go back to the book and where you mentioned that since you could not find a relevant book on the topic of Outskill, you went ahead and wrote about it, and you wrote this book. So, and as Telegraph, as I've read so many reviews on the book, and Telegraph, the newspaper, also mentions that your book is the chicken soup for the business houses. So do talk about your book and do let us know what it is all about. I've read it, but I would really like you to, coming from you, is best we can.
Thanks, Neeta, for the question. I was reading a lot about how technology will take over our jobs, how the transformation will reduce the size of the companies. So many articles about what will happen in the future. And then I started introspecting about myself, that with the skills I have got, will I be relevant in the coming years? And I realized no. I need to be very different in the coming years. Otherwise, I will be absolutely obsolete. So that's how it started. And then I was in a flying school, and I saw the gliders and one of my friend who glides. And I asked him that, how do you fly? He said, I don't need motors, and I just glide because of my skills and my knowledge. And then I read the similar quote from Wilbur Wright. And that made me thinking that, if this is the case where I need a very different kind of a skills, what kind of a skills we require? So I started researching this much before pandemic happened. That time, work from home or other things was not so prevalent. And then I started thinking about what are the skills we require. And this is how Outskill started happening. The name was obviously not there that time. That happened much after. And then pandemic happened. So a lot of my research, a lot of my theories actually had to be rewritten during the pandemic. So this book took almost 3 years to write. And then I also thought that why only my voice? There's so many people around. I know so many senior people, so many practitioners. Why can't I take their opinion as well and then incorporate into the book? So this book is a very different book than the books you see where the author's voice is always prevalent.
Yes.
In this case, I've gone to 44, apart from me, as leaders, starting from managers to the CEOs. And I took the spectrum of industries, different industries, and I incorporated their voice. And I have not changed what, obviously English was changed to match with the editorial space, but their thoughts has not been changed. It is not matched to my thoughts. If they have a different thing to say, I incorporate in that way. So that way, the book is very special because it's not only my book. There are 44 co-authors with this book, and that's what I feel very good about because everyone has contributed to this book. One more thing is that this book is not done to keep any royalty or anything in mind because everything is donated. This is basically giving back to the corporate world because I see people getting shaken up, people are getting nervous. So this can be a great assurance for people to look at the books and see that what are the skills I need if I have to survive or if I have to excel in the next 10, 15 years. That's the basis of this book.
Absolutely. And, before our conversation, we'd run a little bit of a competition, rather. I would say we wanted some views from our regular listeners about what kind of out skills they feel will be required in future, which they think are relevant. So a lot of people came back and they talked about adaptability, communication skills, digital literacy. Many of the skills that you've mentioned in the book did come out, and so that is my reason that definitely this book, reaches out to so many, and it's a common thing that what people are wanting, the skill sets in future. And two of the winners of the books who get this wonderful book is Chetna Kukreja and Bindu Sapra. Congratulations to them. But at the same time, I also want to know that, as you mentioned in the book, that you really dive deep into the skill sets, which, as you
Sorry, so
just
I missed
mentioned,
that word. What you said? So
I said
can you
that,
repeat? I just lost you.
okay. I just mentioning that in Outskill, the book, you have dived into various skill sets. And as I just mentioned, that this competition that we had run, a lot of people came
Yeah.
back with some common skill sets. But I would really like you to talk about some of them, some of the most common that you feel are really relevant. I know they should go through the book and find out more, but maybe you could talk about some of the skills you feel are really most important for everyone in future, and it makes it very relevant.
Before going into skills, we have to understand what is changing. So in my view, three things are changing. First of all, technology is everywhere. Okay. When I started many years back, technology was one of the things. But today, technology is core of everything. That's the first thing. Number two, the ways of working is changing. Okay. We might have some jobs which needs a customer presence, but many of us actually, office can be anywhere. What you need is an internet connection and a good computer and a good headphone probably. And the third is the workforce of today are very different from the workforce when I started. So when I started, my only ambition was to get a job. Okay, because I know I have to earn and I have to start my life. But today people talk about purpose. The eye sitting here, I think her thinking and my thinking will be very different because they talk about purpose, they talk about authenticity, they talk about the gig or that kind of flexibility. That they're talking about. So if we understand how the corporate world is changing or how the world is itself is changing, that will lead us to the skills we need. That's a very important thing. So if all of us sit back and, as I call it, a balcony moment, sit down and think about what are the changes happening, that will tell us that what are the skills I require. For example, the skills I require, the kind of work we do versus the skills you require, the kind of work we do, might be very different. but there are some commonality to this thing. Okay. So now, if we take, say, virtual work as one of the things which is happening in the future. So what you need, so the communication skill we had when a person sitting next to me versus now I lead a team which is 5,000 kilometers away are very different, right? Number two is that if the current workforce is talking about flexibility, you're talking about purpose, talking about authenticity, versus a people where, I call it, selling time and, earning life, so if that was the purpose, it was very different. It will be very different. So before going into skill, we must understand the kind of skills we require, because the world is changing, the society is changing. Now, let me pick up one of my favorites, which is, I call it psychologically safe. Okay, psychological safety. That's one of my favorite topics, because a person sitting next to me, if I go to him or her, if I talk to him or her, the way I can convince versus if he or she is 5,000 miles away, sees me only on a Zoom or a Teams call, are very different. So it's a subject by itself, because it's a book by itself. The point is that when you understand what is needed, I think the how part automatically comes in. And so that's why the 16 skills came out. And finally, if you see, I have summarized the book with 3 things: that the world is changing towards leading through processes, because process becomes a very key factor. Process is not about just SOPs, standard operating procedures. Process is about, how your day to day life. How do you get up in the morning and how do you sleep in the night? So that is how the process goes. Leading to technology, because technology remains core on everything. Every day, something new coming up. Okay? And the third is about, leading from the heart. And that is a very big one. Someone is sitting again 5,000 kilometers away, and if you just call him or her and ask him, how are you doing? What he or she can express, versus if you are here and person is next to you and he or she sees that his son, daughter, mother, father, someone is not well, he can communicate. But 5,000 miles away, no one can communicate to you. So I think that is the way it comes out. So 3 important factors is all about leading from the heart, leading through processes, and leading through technology. So this is how the skills are coming up at this moment, and then we can go into the depth.
Absolutely. Yeah. Dia, you had a very relevant question.
Yes, sir. I wanted to ask for our readers, why did you decide to title the book Outskill? And what do you exactly mean by it? And how important is it in today's world?
So I should be absolutely honest, Outskill is not the name I gave. This is suggested by my editor, Sachin Sharma. And when he said it, I really loved it. So people are talking about upskilling, right? That's a regular term we all use. But outskill is a very new word. Now, outskill goes beyond upskilling, because when you do upskilling, what happens is you have a job or you have work to do and you have a next target. And what you do is you upskill yourself to suit to the next target. This is what upskilling process happens. You go through your self-learning, you go through your structured learning, you do many multiple things. Outscaling is something where I'm saying that you make yourself ready for the market. Okay, where you are ready for the same job, the next job, as well as your market ready, so that anyone, because as an individual, I'm not tied up to a company. No, I'm not tied up to organization. What I'm tied up to myself. So my skill should be such that I am absolutely ready for my next move, be it inside and outside. That's why the outskill thing came up. And when he told me that, and then I did a research on that, and I see many organizations in the book, Amazon, Pricewaterhouse, everyone is talking about outskilling, some of them, and they're investing a lot on that. So it is about an individual to get ready for his or her next move, and not about just getting into the next role within the organization. That's why the outskill came. But I will not take the credit, because the credit goes to Sachin Sharma.
I have to say that's a very apt name. Talking about skills, you
Just
mentioned.
one thing before that, I was having a discussion, and I gave him 40 name options.
Oh my God.
And he said, outskill, that's it. Partha, don't argue. So this is exactly what he's told me. So, it happened, and it happened just before the cover was designed. So I'm very grateful to him for the name.
As I was saying, it really is a very apt skill, especially how you describe it. It makes total sense. talking about skills, in the question previous to this, you mentioned that, of course, leading by heart is very important. And from your personal experiences, I want to ask, there's one side which is leading by heart and perhaps one side which is not. But do you think skill will be overpower it? Will it be able to, if you have enough skill to do it, if you don't lead by heart, do you think you can do the job as well?
So let me tell you a small story which happened in my life. Okay, and probably you will understand what is leading from the heart. Nothing big but very small. So I used to work for Coca-Cola that time, and there was the depot. I was in Bangalore. There was a depot, where the things were stored. It was in Hebbal, in a place in Bangalore. And so we had a process where the trucks will go out in the morning and they will come back in the night. They will do the settlement, and the truck drivers and the sailors will go back home. This was the process. And there were 5 people who used to count the cash and used to do the settlement. The work is called settlement. Now, I was a finance manager at that time. I'm talking about many, many years back. And then one of the my team members, his name is Shashi Kumar. He came and told me that every 15 days someone is leaving. Okay? And I said, why? He said, I don't know, but every day, so no one wants to work for Hebban. So I said, let's go there. So I went there one day at night, 10 o'clock, and I found that that there was a bus stand which is just 100 meters away, but there were a lot of stray dogs in that road. So when these people used to go home for the bus stand, the stray dog was after them, and and they used to get scared. Someone got bitten also. Okay. Now, I didn't understand Kannada that time. This person was Shashi was translating to me, and then I realized what they just need is transport for that 100 meters from the depot to the bus stand. We arranged for that, and no one left after that. Now, why am I telling you the story? It's a very simple thing, but this is what I feel as leading from the heart, because you go there, you understand what the person wants, and people needs are very, very simple. Okay, he just wanted safety so that he can safely reach home. So to me, to your question, that leading from the heart, always leading, because if a manager is not sensing him or the other person from the way he wants to feel, what will happen is that whatever skills he has, whatever intelligence he has, or whatever whatever he wants to do, but that human touch will always remain. So for me, leading from the heart will be always leading versus leading from the brain. That is my way of looking at management. Might be others might differ, but this story actually tells me, I always think about a story and tell me that I never knew about this word leading from the heart that time. But today, when I relate back, I think it makes a lot of sense to me.
It does, sir. If I had to relate it as just a student, I would say, if I like studying something or reading something versus when I'm just doing it for the sake of studying or the sake of studies, I might score well in that, but I'll truly delve into it if I like doing it and I'll truly understand it that way. So, of course, that's very different from reading, but it does make sense.
But you're leading yourself.
Yes, that's true.
And if you see Outskill, it's all about stories. So there are many, many, many stories. So when I was writing this, I realized that I can give big jargons, management jargons, but that doesn't stay. But stories which our parents told us, which our grandparents told us, that remains with us, right?
That's true.
So that's why Outskill is all about short stories and not about management.
That is how anybody relates. That's why you've written such a great book, sir. It's great to learn from your experiences, and as you have mentioned in your book, from others' experiences. You've also quoted Alvin Tofflet in the book. The illiterate of the 21st century will not be those who cannot read or write, but those who cannot learn, unlearn, and relearn. Please talk more about this.
I think he said it all. So I know
Yes.
I haven't taught that because he's we all of us look up to him. The point is that we have a certain capacity, right? All of us. I know our brains are unlimited, but still we have certain capacity, we have certain resources and certain time which we dedicate. many a times when you grow up there, you will realize people talk about that this happens this way and this is the way. And many of the senior people doesn't want to give away what they have done in the past. If with the new possibilities, the three things I spoke about, if you don't stop doing what you're doing, if you don't unlearn what you're doing and start learning the new things, you will not add up the new skills. Okay, let's take networking for example, and Neeta spoke about that. If this session was 15 years back, I would have been in Delhi. There will be 40 people around us, and we have done that, right? We'll have a blackboard, we'll have a projector, we are talking about slides. But today we are doing it seamlessly over a Zoom. Now, I really don't know all the readers, all the listeners here, or the people who will listen later on where they are. But do we care? We don't, because the content is what matters, right? So all of us, including you, have to unlearn the very fact that these things can happen over Zoom. These things can happen over Teams. Okay, if look at this corporate travels, it's coming down drastically because people realize even sales jobs can be done over Teams. So this is a simple example of unlearning. So we have to keep on unlearning every day, and we have to keep on learning every day. So that is my feeling. I try to do that quite often, and this quote is something which really gets me going.
Perhaps I can even say that you learned, unlearned, and relearned while writing this book when COVID came along to evolve this book. Yes, sir.
There's something called a PDCA. Probably heard of that. It's called Deming Circle. Okay, plan, do, check, act. We all do it unconsciously. So this is nothing but, again, it's about learning and unlearning. You plan something, you do something, then you check. This is not happening. Then you again act, and then you again the circle goes on. It's called Deming Circle. So this also is same thing, because you are learning from your own actions or others' action, and then you are changing your course. That's also happens when you're talking about management skills.
Right. This really is a wonderful quote. Able to apply it everywhere. In fact, talking about evolving and changes during the pandemic and because of the pandemic, Microsoft yesterday announced unlimited leave policy. Do you think it is the result of virtual fatigue, need for flexible hours, or balance of work and life?
I wrote an article about virtual fatigue, just the start of when this pandemic started, because I started feeling that people are getting fatigued, and this, I think in March I wrote it. Just no one was talking about that time. Now the point is that I don't want to comment about Microsoft because I don't have knowledge about that. The point is that this is a very dangerous game, because what happens, your office never stops. You're always online, you are always, and I'm also victim of that. Okay, the point is that if you can't stop your office at a particular time, if you can't stop thinking about work at certain point of time, your virtual fatigue is bound to happen. Burnout is a word I never appreciated before coming to Europe, but last 10 years I really appreciate this, because burnout do happens. Mental health is definitely an issue. We have to respect that. So I strongly urge, and I tell everyone, that take every day as a project. Have a start time, have an end time, and beyond that, if something is on fire, obviously go and douse that. But end of the day, you also have something else to do. Be it with the family, be it your passion, even watching Netflix or Amazon Prime. That's also part of your life. Okay, but this unending thing of not ending a day will lead to a fatigue, and a tired mind cannot lead a corporation. You have to be fresh on Monday morning, as simple as that.
That is true.
So I don't know about Microsoft, as I said, but I believe in virtual fatigue. And nowadays, if you see the trend, many people actually want to come back to office at least 2 days or at least 3 days in a month, so that they can interact with warm bodies much more. So the trend is real.
Right. So since you have obviously experienced this so much, what is your opinion on hybrid working?
I fully support this. I fully support this, because obviously if I am in an airline, so I was in Spicejet, that doesn't work, because I have to be there next to the customers. Or if I'm working in a restaurant, or if I'm working in a hospital, I have to be there. So I'm not talking about them, but many people, especially people like me, hybrid definitely works. Two reasons. One is I can plan my day. And then, if we are looking at this meeting itself, Neeta said 10:30. Sorry, my time 11:30. So 4 o'clock. Sharp 4 o'clock, she started talking. But if it was in a room, we would have taken 10 more minutes to know each other, right?
That is
Just
true.
an example. So for me, it's a very effective tool because the time waste is very limited. The data says the productivity has gone up. And that the data says very clearly. However, we also need to be next to each other. So hybrid is a perfect model where you be with your co-workers, be with your colleagues, be with your clients when is needed. By other time, if you are anywhere, it works. From Netherlands, there are many people, they have gone to Curacao or to Caribbean islands. They hired places for a month and they worked from there. It worked. So I support.
And it would work for in the case of burnout as well. I feel like you would be more efficient and you would be at home. So maybe that could minimize the burnout.
Absolutely. But then the end time is important. Because hybrid, another biggest issue is that I see people kept on working, 9:30, 10, 11 o'clock. That doesn't work because your body is structured in some way. You need rest. You need your mind to be restful. So if you keep on working, that's not going to work.
Right. That makes sense, sir. I wanted to talk about the book. So the third and fourth chapters in the book are on very important topics of virtual leadership and matrix leadership, such relevant topics. Would you like to talk more about these chapters, perhaps give a brief so that our viewers can know more?
So virtual leadership, I think, spoke a bit about that. Let's talk about matrix leadership.
Yes.
So let's take 15 years back. The corporate world was very hierarchical. So you have a CEO, you have a leadership team, you have got the leaders, and down below are the teams. That was a very clear, and the promotions was always like tuck tuck tuck. You start with a executive, become a assistant manager, become a deputy manager, general manager, and so on and so forth. That is what the world was, and the chain of command was very clear. About 10 years back, I think Metric working has started, where we started working with multiple teams, and that is the trend. So I might be a finance person or supply chain person, but that doesn't mean that I will not help in sales. Okay, so this is how it started working. Matrix teams started getting formed, and there are multi-functional, cross-functional teams which are formed. So there is the one boss concept is disappearing. You will have multiple supervisors, multiple colleagues who may not be from your stream. Okay, and that's very important for us because that requires a different kind of a mindset, because right now you are doing something, the next moment you are doing something with some other team. And this also helps everyone in the way, because we learn much more than our function or than our domain, because you are now around people who are not exactly with your qualification. So to me, metrics working is taking a lot of shape. Many companies are working with that. And then you top up with Agile or Six Sigma, and all these processes comes in there. But metrics working is going to stay. And it's not that you'll have a specific job description and you live with that. Your job description will be always different, or always, I'll say that it will be loosely tied up versus a very firm claim that this is ABCD you're supposed to do. So to me, it's a very important function. Coming to virtual working, we spoke about that. It's a very different way of working. It is when I used to lead a team of 1450 people when only 7 people were next to me, just 7. And rest 1400 people were all across the world. So how do you ensure that they come to office or they work from anywhere, but the productivity is clearly driven? So coming from the number of hours, things are changing into the productivity, and that is how the leaders has to change, because otherwise we count that this person is here from 9 to 5. Those days are gone. Now here it is talked about, this is your delivery task and this is how you deliver, and I'm going to support you. That is what virtual working has brought in. So it's a very kind of leadership when you are not next to your people, but you're still leading them, being in a very different place. And they also don't care whether you're in Amsterdam or Delhi or Bangalore. No, they just need a leader to be with them.
Right.
I'm just summarizing because of time, because obviously the book has a lot more stories into this, but I thought I'll just summarize this.
If I had just a small question, obviously you've led a lot of teams. So if you had to say, do you think the virtual leadership is more difficult than on-site leadership, or does that depend on the team?
No, it's definitely much difficult.
More
It's
challenging.
definitely much difficult because first of all, you have to trust all the people who are not next to you.
Hmm.
And you have to trust as a leader. And that is the biggest thing which a leader has to be there. Number two is your objective has to be very, very clear. Okay, that other person should know what you're expecting because you don't have a day-to-day touch. Okay, third is that you should have a common goal, and the common goal has to be accepted by the other person. There are many states of that, but virtual leadership is very different than face-to-face leadership.
Right.
Because you have to be on the ball all the time, and you have to support someone being far off, which is not an easy thing to do all the time. You have to appreciate someone. If you're next to me, I can pat your back, but if you're not there, how do I still ensure that you're appreciated? How do I still ensure that you're acknowledged? So those thinking is very different than being someone next to you.
Right. Makes sense.
The book has a lot of, you've talked about leadership really in extent because of the leadership roles that you've also enjoyed. And you've also mentioned that a true leader in the book that I read, that in future who can really connect to others and really leads right from his position. So what are the qualities that you see in a true leader who, as you always mention, I mean, you've been mentioning in the book that it is, leadership through heart, through emotions. So what qualities do you really see in a true leader who really can connect to others?
The leadership qualities has not changed because a leader is a leader and will remain leader. And for me, everyone is a leader. It's not by hierarchy. A person who is joining, when they will be in a corporate world, say after 4 years, she's also a leader. It's not that she has to lead. She's leading today, sitting here. The point is that it is not that leader has to be by age or by qualification, by experience. To me, a leader is someone. There are many things come to my mind, but if I summarize, first of all, he or she has to be very clear on the objective setting. That's the first important thing, because that has to be very clear to everyone. That's the first thing comes to my mind. Number two is that he or she has to trust and care for others. The second thing comes to my mind. Okay, and the third thing which comes to my mind is that the leader has to take ownership. It is not that I have told you something, you do it, and not that. So if I have to talk about the top three qualities, the ownership definitely comes there. I'm not talking about integrities and those kind of a thing, because that's a given. Like that's like brushing your teeth in the morning. But the point is, a leader who takes ownership and who can explain what is needed and why it is needed, and who are there next to the people, I think they are the true leaders for me. If I think about leaders who has who immediately comes to my mind when I think about leader, one more thing is definitely who made me feel safe. Okay, and where I can talk, I can openly challenge, I can openly contribute with my new ideas, and that is a very important, that he or she gives me. That's a care and trust, and the safety thing comes into my mind. So this is my top three things. Just comes to my mind quickly.
Absolutely. And there is, I must tell everyone, there is so much more in the book. All you have to do is read the book and gain the maximum out of that. And of course, we are fortunate to have Mr. Basu with us, and with his so much of knowledge, we are gaining so much today. One thing before I move on to the interactive round, also, I have so many questions, but time is always a limit. You've mentioned in the book that people who show emotions are really good for an organization as they're passionate about winning. This line that you mentioned in the book really caught me. Sometimes people say that if you're oversensitive, maybe you're over passionate, and maybe you cannot be so successful. But you're very sure about it. So will you like to talk about it?
So that is probably my traits come into that, because I know that's my way of looking at it. Some people might differ. My point is that people who show emotions okay, I really care about them. For example, where do you show emotion? You show emotion at your home. And why do you show emotion? Because you care about someone next to you, your family, right? That's what we show. The biggest emotion comes. So if I'm spending 10 hours in my office, why can't that be my home? Why have I have to be different, and I have to be tight-lipped, and I have to be very, very different person? Because human beings are the same. So I look, it's very simplistically saying that if the emotions can be shown in the office, I think nothing wrong in that. No, I'm not saying that I'll be howling or crying or shouting. That's not the idea. But how it is that I show emotion only if I care for the organization. So I believe in that. Some people might differ, but I still believe in that.
Very well said. I totally agree to what you've just said. One of the questions which just came to me, and unfortunately, the person couldn't join because of the network issue. There's this young boy called Anirudh, and he's quite a regular on our platform. And he really wants to read the book. So he wanted to know that if you could just tell him why should he be reading this book, and how are you feeling with the response to the book? Because there are
The
fantastic reviews
response to
on
the
it.
book is tremendous, and especially coming from people with students, some of the students, but mainly the people who are experienced between 2 to 15 years. I think that is what people are really liking it. There are many senior leaders who are writing. I don't know some of them also, but they are writing about the book, which is very overwhelming sometimes. Uh, and what does Anirudh do? If I may know.
He's the head boy of one of the schools.
Oh, lovely. So difficult to answer. Dia, why did you read the book?
Oh, why I didn't?
Why did you read the book? I think you should answer, Anirudh. Why should you read the book?
Yes.
I think because whatever field you might go in, one aspect of every single field that is important, it is to know how to work in a team. And your book, it's not just from an evolving point of view, how things are changing and how the future would be, but it's also from multiple point of views. So you won't be constricted to one personality, but so many, which is something often not seen in books, such like these. And that is why I would definitely recommend this book.
So, Anirudh, now you have your answer.
Right. We have Chetna Kukreja, and I request her to switch on her video. She's an entrepreneur, a very, very active Rotarian also. So,
Hi,
Chetna,
Chetna.
can you please switch on your video? You've won the book also. You had written such beautiful comments on that.
Oh, congrats.
Yeah, can you switch on Chetna, please?
I did switch on and I think she switched it on. She might be facing some network issue that often happens if they switch it on and then.
Chetna, can you hear us?
I think Chetna is on mute.
She is on mute right now.
Should go to the next one and then come back to her.
We have Mr. Vijay Shankar. He's a lawyer and he has a question. Can you please switch on, Vijay?
Yes.
Hi,
Yes.
sir.
Good evening, sir.
Hi.
Sir, I have a question.
Yes, please go ahead.
Am I audible?
Yes.
Yes.
Am I audible?
Yes.
I have a question. Like, how can we restore confidence in aspiring entrepreneurs in the post-COVID world? Like the way businesses have suffered, people, new investments have actually taken a backseat. Many people have been reviewing their business plans. Many have put the business plans on hold. In fact, many people have taken too much much safer options. So, how can we restore the confidence of would-be entrepreneurs?
Difficult one for me to answer because obviously Outskill is not about that, but I'll try my best. I think it is ultimately it's his or her personal choice, right? And end of the day, if the business doesn't go well, obviously someone will take another path. And I know many of my friends also have come back to regular jobs. However, if I look at two things, one side, people are talking about recession coming up, right? That's what I'm hearing everywhere. Okay. Another side, I'm also hearing that this recession also, opening up a lot of new opportunities. And where the new skill set and where Outskill can help is also new skill sets are important. Okay. So it's a misback. For example, the business I am in now, okay, I develop managed services. There's a huge opportunity because of recession. Versus if you go into a consumer industry or something, people are fearing that recession might derail their business. So it cannot have a one answer to your question, because all depends on the sector the person in, or the work he or she wants to do. But looking at the world with a very pragmatic view might help, because if he or she is into a thing where recession can help, okay, definitely it's a positive sign. Or if it's other way around, he or she might have to be careful. So I thought hopefully that gives you some perspective.
Thank you so much, sir. Many congratulations on your book, and I'm looking forward to read it. Thank you, sir.
And do share your comments.
Definitely, sir. I
It will
will.
help many people, because there are many followers we all have, and your words will help them.
Thanks a lot, sir. I'll definitely do. Thank you.
Thank
Sir.
you. Hi, Chetna.
Hi, Chetna. We were waiting for you. Yes. Thank you, Vijayji. Yes. Chetna.
Chetna is on mute.
Dia, can you unmute her?
I have asked her to unmute.
Yes.
Hello. Hello.
Yes,
Hello.
we can. Yeah, hi, Chetna. We can hear you.
Yes. Hi, Neeta. Actually, I was traveling, so मेरे को साथ में ही मैं उसमें बात कर रही हूँ. Actually, I have not read the book. पूरी मैंने कोई book नहीं पढ़ी because I didn't purchase it, but it was in my this thing कि the question which was there in my mind was कि we are talking about skills, but what about human values? Where will they go? Because एक unhealthy competition start हो चुका है about skills. Like when we were kids, we used to go to school at the age of 4, and then learning, and then हमारी mental learning बहुत होती थी. But now एक unhealthy competition to have multiple skills. What do you want to say about this thing, sir?
So you're talking about life skills, right? So I'm talking about corporate skills. But to answer your question is that yes, there is competition, definitely, because
because that is leading to very unhealthy competition around the skill. Like the child now born, 1-year child is being given the skills, do this, do that, and they are becoming robotic.
But that's a problem of our education system, right? Because what I see it here, living in Europe, the education system is very different. They don't put data into our head, as you said, Chetna, that हम लोग जब school में जाते थे, it was different. That what is happening in Brazil में कितना wheat production हुआ, I don't know what will that happen with me, because I will not do anything with the data, but still I have to learn to pass the exams. So the education system, I fully agree, but things are changing. अब अगर देखो अभी तो many things are changing. The way the education is happening, the way the parenting is happening, I think is very different than what was happening today. Yes, we are going through a turmoil, definitely, and things will change in the society. But the way the skills are getting developed with the new world, I think after this storm, the calmness will happen. That is my view. And what I see living here in Europe is that the way people are educated are very different versus the way I was taught in India. So I think things will change. That is my view.
Actually, being a businesswoman, I know that in the corporate world also, the skills are outweighing the human behavior, human values. But somewhere I feel कि skill के साथ-साथ human values की भी importance रहनी चाहिए.
But values तो पहले आएगा, skills तो बाद में आएगा. I fully agree with you. Absolutely agree with you, because if you're not a good human being, you cannot be a good leader. I fully agree. Yes. So value comes first, and obviously then you build on the values, the skills. So I'm fully with you on that. Okay. However, it's not that in corporate that everyone is losing their values. I see most of the people have their values, definitely. And if they build on that, the skills, the values are the base, and fully in agreement with you, the values cannot go away, then nothing else will work. But on the values, if you can develop the skills, I think that is a winning combination.
Yes, I agree with you. Thank you, sir.
Thanks for asking. It opens up my mind actually, Chetna. Thanks so much.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Chetna. There is one question by Alka Khanna. She's still to finish your book, but she's read it in part still. And she says that your book is quite simple. It is straight and backed by engaging and powerful storyline. She's touching upon a very important point, which I also agree. This is that you mentioned that it's very good to lead by stories. I think it's a very important chapter in your book because you believe in the art of storytelling and it being a very, very important trait for corporate. So would you like to talk about it?
I'll go back to Dia and ask it. Dia, I told you the dog story, right? Will you not remember it for a long time versus if I told you what is about the values or empathy? This is a power of story. Okay, this is exactly the power of story. So no, what we remember is all from stories. In fact, I wrote a book. It's called Make It or Break It. All story started with once upon a time. It had a king and a queen, and it ended happily ever after. Okay, so this is what the book is all about. And it was I just thought of recreating the stories we heard in our past. The point is that stories remain with us, and stories doesn't have to be stories of a king or a queen or a person coming in a white horse. So stories can be happening what is around us. I think if you share that, it will stick on to people for many more years. That's why I believe in the power of storytelling, and there are many storytelling courses happening now. I have attended few of them. I really found value through that. So that is one of my, very clearly that is one of the future traits which we need to have it. It can be business storytelling, it can be corporate storytelling, but story remains with us. And I believe in this.
Absolutely. So right. I totally agree. And anything else that you'd like to mention that we've not discussed? We are coming to the end of the session.
No, so I just want to ask you a question. Dia told about her. So both of you from different perspective picked up the book. And so if both of you shared that, what was your take and what was Dia's take, I think that would be a nice conclusion, because then you can hear from two different genres.
See, I have finished the book, and I must tell you that it was reinforcing because I've been also a corporate person and I've worked initially before beginning my venture. I feel that it gets you in place. Then you put everything together. Most of the books mentioned in the book, you know them, but then they had to be somewhere to kind of put the perspective together. We also know that leadership through emotions, all this that you've mentioned, but the way you put it, the way you put everything together, and especially the way you've involved all the business leaders, as you mentioned, around 40, 42, that's total experience talking. And I think that is the best. It is a very practical book. It's not some kind of a gyan, but it is a very practical gyan, I would say. And for me, it was like that. I took the book like, okay, I'll keep this book because maybe I need to keep on going back and also improving my skills for future. Yes, that's where I'm going wrong. And I need to kind of, once, as we've also been discussing, once you stop learning, kind of it is the end of a lot of things. So you have to keep on upscaling, you have to keep on outskilling, and all that you've mentioned in the book. I definitely need to plan. About you,
Before I
Dia.
summarize, and Dia, what's your take quickly?
I would say I've not finished the book as of yet, but like I mentioned before, it's a book for me. Obviously, I've not obviously been a corporate person, but I can relate to it. For example, the chapter psychological safety. That is a chapter I found very interesting. I think reading about Shirley, if I am saying the name right.
I don't remember, to be honest, the name of the person.
So that was something I could relate to my own experience. And that is why the book shines to me, because I'm able to relate as I go on. And as you said, the power of storytelling, that book really shows through. And of course, what I mentioned before, the multiple perspectives and how it feels sort of, even though it's a book about which advises you, it also acts like a friend who's advising you. So I find it to be a really special book.
Thank you so much. And to summarize, just one thing from the whoever is listening to this, read the book first, but then it is not a book to be read, at a go. You can pick up from anywhere after obviously reading the introduction and the first 2 chapters. They call it like bite size, right? So pick up one in a day, and then, if you like to go to chapter 29 after 15, you can just go there. So read it that way instead of reading it like a storybook, because this is a book for your day-to-day reference for you. It's like a handbook. Okay.
Mhm.
And whenever you want to come to Charlie's story or say Anna's story, so come back to that. And all our real life, near life stories, as I called it, because I've twisted them. I've not given the real names. But don't read it as a storybook. Read it as you want to read from any chapter, and that's the beauty of this book.
Mm. That was actually what I was doing.
That makes sense.
Thank you so much. It has been a very enriching session. And as you mentioned in the book, let us outskill and let's begin. So I think we have begun today on a journey for our self-development. And with your thoughts, experience, and research, you've written about future of leadership, people skills, storytelling, among other things. Thank you for
Thank
taking
you
out
so
time.
much.